With YouTube, Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, and Metacritic, getting to know other people's opinion is easier than ever before. What do critics think of the most recent Spider-Man? Bam! A ton of ratings and reviews at your disposal. How does a Nintendo fan feel about the newest Smash Bros. Character? Type it in YouTube, et voila! A ton of reaction videos. But with so many people sharing their opinions online, whether they're paid professionals or amateurs who do it as a hobby, how do you make an actual solid review? What do the reviewers I follow do different than the ones I don't care about? After doing some digging, I came up with a total of 6 returning points about how reviewers present themselves, what they actually say about the product, and also what not to say. Keep in mind that this video is entirely opinion-based. These aren't holy guidelines as what to every reviewer should do, nor do I think I master these things myself. These are just returning things that reviewers I enjoy do, or some bad things I've seen reviewers I dislike do. Let's not waste any more time and begin! Number 1. Presentation. Let's get the most obvious one out of the way first. You can have an interesting point of view to share, but if your writing sucks or you're not great in front of a camera, the review just falls apart. If I can't hear what you say due to poor pronunciation, bad audio quality, I see no reason to continue watching. On a slightly different topic, I personally prefer video reviews. Actually seeing the facial expressions, hearing the emotion in someone's voice makes it more personal. It also gives the reviewer the opportunity to show clips from the product they're talking about, emphasizing on why they think something is good or bad. Their joy can be contagious.
Go see it right now! Don't even listen to his introduction, it's so good! Just stop what you're doing, go see it, because it's amazing! These movies just get better and better! By God, just go! Go! Go see it now, just go!
Or the anger can be hilarious.
Oh, for fuck's sake! You done fucked it up!
Same goes for the importance of proper grammar and the overall writing style regarding written reviews. Both these formats could be great, but regardless of the format, bad presentation can kill the review, so this should be the first aspect to do right. Number 2. Explain how you felt beforehand. This is important in order to understand what mindset you had going in and where you stand as an audience member. Are you a big fan of this franchise, the director, the genre in general, or do you love the actors involved? Did you go in completely open-minded, or did you expect to hate it? If so, why? And why did you give it a try anyways? This brief explanation about where you stand can paint a clear picture on the overall person you are and what you're looking for in a product. A critic with no interest in giant monster movies will give a completely different review than someone who loves giant movie monsters, for example. It can also make it easier for you to identify yourself with the reviewer. If I have a similar mindset about the franchise as the reviewer in question, I tend to use their opinion as guidelines for mine more often. Therefore, I feel it's important to include this information. Number 3. Give a clear description of the content. Simply saying something sucks or praising it doesn't paint an objective picture of the actual content you've been experiencing. What you like and what I like can be different things, so try to stick to the facts as much as possible and explain what effects these facts have on you. What genre is it? Who directed it? How big was the budget? What's the story about? How is the gameplay? Was there an interesting behind-the-scenes story that influenced the end result? And how was it received by the public or critics in comparison to how you personally felt? I think it's important to paint a picture of what the content of the product will offer, or what reputation it has, so the viewer can think for themselves whether it sounds interesting. There have been times where I was interested in watching something that the reviewer straight up hated, because they were able to properly describe what the movie offers, and I made the decision for myself to say it sounded interesting. There were also times where I felt like I watched a completely different movie or played a different game because the reviewer described little of the actual content to back up their conclusions. This immediately brings me to the next point. Use arguments to further explain your opinion. I basically already said it, but it's an important part that deserves its own spot. Simply saying something is fun or sucks is easy, and I accredit little value to it. But giving well-founded arguments can make a review so much stronger. Let's say you think the cinematography of a movie is impressive. Why is it impressive? Is it the use of colors, the complexity of the shot, or is it the sheer prettiness? If so, try to use pictures or video footage that show what you're talking about. And this is just one example. It also applies to other aspects of the product, like the music, writing, gameplay, effects, etc. Arguments and footage can make a review so much more insightful. With a good reviewer, I can be interested in what they have to say, even if I disagree. Number 5. Don't be an ass. I do think it is okay to have some controversial standpoints or unpopular opinions, depending on what standpoint and the severity of the controversy. It is also highly possible to dislike certain reviewers who technically do nothing wrong, but your visions just differ too much to enjoy listening to what they have to say. These are all harmless disagreements, but explicitly talking trash to other people in a review or as a response to someone else's review is a whole different thing, and it's a very shitty, toxic thing at that. As a reviewer, you're not above other audience members, so there is no need to pretend like you are in some way superior because you happen to write reviews yourself. People saying stuff like, "People who like this at least are sane," or "Let other folks just stick to that dumb stuff because true art is clearly too much for them to comprehend," just makes you an arrogant person who is looking for any excuse to put themselves above others. Even if you really despise something, don't be an ass about it and let other people have their fun. You wouldn't like it either if the same things are being said about you for your taste. Keep it about the product and don't make it personal. Number 6. Opinions shouldn't differ to the extreme. I quickly mentioned this before in my previous point, but it deserves further explanation. I know, the most morally right thing to say would probably be, don't be stubborn and only watch reviewers you agree with, be open to different tastes, and I agree with that, for the most part. We can't all expect to think alike, and sometimes reviewers can be into things you hate or vice versa. This can offer some unique, different perspectives, and it might introduce you to all kinds of stuff you wouldn't encounter otherwise. However, I do think it is healthy to set a limit to what you can and cannot accept. If you state false facts in multiple reviews, you blindly say everything sucks or everything is good without any arguments, chances are a lot bigger I won't find your review credible. I don't mean this in a "you dislike something I love, you suck" kind of way, but in a "I'm looking for reviews to enjoy and I'm not getting any enjoyment out of this," even if the review is as objective and respectful as possible. For example, I was on a forum where people could submit their personal amateur reviews. On The Lion King, there was a user who gave it a 1 out of 10. One of his arguments was, "The animation of this movie is ugly and bad. If I paused the movie, it looked like the lions were floating." And that was all he had to say for why the animation was bad. This argument is neither true, nor would it explain as to what made the animation good or bad. It's a really odd thing to focus on, let alone considering it a deciding factor in rating it a 1 out of 10, meaning everything about it sucks enormously. This would imply Lion King is on the same level as the abomination called Food Fight. This is one of those cases where our views just differ to such an extreme that I'm not gonna get any enjoyment out of your work. There's a line between not enjoying something and between denying any effort or talent was involved. The most important thing is to find reviewers with whom you're on the same or at least a similar page, or someone who can present their point of view in such a way that you can still be interested in what they have to say, despite disagreements. Reviewers who have extreme different visions like this, I just skip out on. And last but not least, enjoy what you're doing. This seems basic, but I've seen reviewers that raise the impression that they simply didn't enjoy their work. Watching movies or playing games are things people do to enjoy themselves, to learn, to socialize, or maybe it's used as a means to relax and put their minds to something else. The majority of people that will be interested in what you have to say are people with an interest in the same product. So if you yourself have zero interest in the type of content you're reviewing, why even bother? For example, do you hate Tarantino? That's fine, we can't all like his work, but then why would you watch and review all of his movies? That just seems like a huge waste of your time, and your viewers too. I'm not interested in just hearing you rant on things you dislike, but I want to see diversity. Talk about things you love, think are mediocre, and hate. not just one side of the spectrum. I like to watch movies and play games. Remind me of that love by sharing your enjoyment or curiosity, not by pretending like it's some sort of chore and you hate what the industry offers. But of course, it doesn't always need to be a negative thing if the reviewer does something he or she doesn't like. The reviewer can purposefully look for bad or weird things to review in order to make jokes or just make an enjoyable rant. Characters like Nostalgia Critic, Angry Video Game Nerd, and JonTron became famous by solely focusing on weird stuff and making funny videos about them. It can also be that a reviewer tries something new, something out of their comfort zone, and it just didn't work out. In those cases, awesome, cool, you're open to new things, but there's a difference between trying something outside of your comfort zone, giving it the benefit of the doubt and seeing a possibility that it might pleasantly surprise you, and knowingly doing something you hate over and over again. Regardless of what you're reviewing, don't let it become a chore. That would kill the entire purpose of watching movies and playing games. These are the most important aspects about the reviewers I like. Are there important things to add? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.